we just become a part of the problem instead of the solution. We're talking to our friends, we're rehashing it over and over, and we're giving it all energy about all of the toxicity that is going on, and we are not actually doing our part to improve. Welcome back to the Humaning Well podcast. My name is Amber Cabral, and let me just give you fair warning. This is a holding the mirror up episode. Okay, like if you are ready to see yourself, then you should stick around. But if you are in a place where perhaps, feeling a little called out might be uncomfortable, you might want to skip this one and come back to it a little later. All right, I'm feeling a little prickly. I'm fresh out of my team meeting. And we talked about this there, and it is fresh on my mind. Okay, so I have thoughts and feelings, and they are going to bubble up in this episode for sure. If you're not ready, take a pause. Last warning. Here we go. We are addicted to identifying, affirming, and talking about the problem, but we almost never get to a solve. I mean, especially when we're talking about like online, but this happens on like, when we're watching television, when we're in conversation with our friends. And I know some of you are like, but I learned so much on TikTok. Yeah, sure. Maybe you do. Great recipes, all of that. But like, just think about it for a moment. There are so many videos telling you what's wrong with you or just calling out a problem. This is what bullying at work sounds like. No tactics for addressing bullying. You aren't confronting your discomfort. No help with how to manage discomfort though. You need a proactive mindset instead of a reactive mindset. No support for how to develop a proactive mindset. Feeling anxious when you make a mistake is a trauma response. And this one is especially funny to me because like there are people who are literally doing the trauma thing, the traumatizing behavior, and calling it like therapy, but they're not offering any support on how you should address your trauma responses. Like, you can probably self-diagnose ADHD and explain what narcissism is, but don't have a clear direction on how to navigate someone who has either. There is pretty much never a how or what to do about it. Occasionally, there's even a $39.99 ebook that collects the list of observed problems in one place, but no practical solutions for anyone to actually apply. It's exhausting. There are so many content creators. There is so just conversation, right, about this. And I'm intentionally avoiding saying certain phrases and saying some specific names because my goal here isn't to call anyone out, right? Like there are lots of people doing it. They're peddlers of the problem, as I would like to say. But my goal is actually not to call them out. My goal is really to help us grow. And so to do that, I need us to notice when the information that we are consuming is only making us feel seen and not at all helping us to move forward. Now, to be fair, knowing other folks are navigating some of the same things that you are or having some of the same experiences that you are, it feels good. And honestly, it is necessary. I get it. Knowing you aren't alone in a thing, it can be a relief, right? Not belittling that at all. But if you are only, and many of us are only, affirming and observing the problems, when and how will you get free of them? I know for sure that this podcast would be so much more popular if I literally just sat here behind this mic and affirmed the existence of all of the toxic behaviors that we have normalized. I could almost use that exact sentence. It is so toxic when we continue to behave in ways that are not considerate of others. And I could intentionally make an entire episode about that and never tell you what it looks like to be intentional. It is maddening. Popular isn't my goal, thankfully. I really just want us well. And so there will never be an episode where I don't ask you to challenge your own thinking, give you questions to consider, or share a tool that you can download or something. There will always be something that I'm going to give you to help you to grow and improve and be better. Because while I think it is great for us to feel affirmed that the bullshit exists and that thousands, potentially even millions of other people are also sitting with us in it, I mostly want us to get free. This isn't a lecture. I am a little frustrated, but this isn't a lecture. I was guilty too until I wasn't. I would be swiping through the clock app and land on, you shouldn't be bothered by people making the best decision for their life. And I would be like, oh, you right. I shouldn't like, follow, right? But do I know what to do if I'm actually bothered? Do I know what the next step is for me to move out of being bothered? No. In fact, I may just start ignoring how I feel because I actually still feel bothered, which can create a whole other problem for the internet to affirm for me. Yay. All of this it's this so-called education that's really only confirmation. I was a part of that too. And I started to realize that like my life was the same. My communication challenges were the same. My loneliness was the same. My difficulty with engaging in certain types of relationships were the same. Things were the same. I just have fancier words and sentences to talk about it. And so here's what we can do about it, because I'm always going to give you something to do. And if you just take a look, you will notice this. And if you notice it how I notice it, it will be disruptive to your online experience. And so I want to give you an approach to navigate it. Okay. When you are online and you notice that you are deep in the head nodding affirmation of the problem loop, swipe past it. Just swipe past it. And how do you know when you're in the loop? You got to look for it. You have to actively look for it. When you catch yourself in that strong agreement, ask yourself if what you are watching is just feeding you confirmation, or if it has actually given you a tool, a tactic, a solution, and not just snark to help you address whatever the issue is. And if it hasn't, ask yourself if it is worth your time and attention to keep making that particular creator money hand over fist with your attention, particularly if you're considering sharing it. I'm dating myself in this, but remember G.I. Joe was like, knowing is half the battle. It's literally just half. Okay. So resting in affirmation is half the battle, and it is going to lose us the war. And as I have shared in the last episode, there is a full-on battle for your attention. People are making content solely to make money because that's how they make money. There's no thought about how the content is actually being helpful or serving you. What are you actually getting by being constantly affirmed, but never taking action? And I don't want to belittle, because being online can actually be helpful, but you do have to train your brain to look for the stuff that's worth it instead of just continuing to only consume the toxic affirming stuff. And I'm saying this because I am looking at a lot of the toxic affirming stuff and I see the numbers, right? I see the shares, I see the likes, I see the amount and volume of content that these people are producing. And I'm like, what did they give you? All right. But we can be useful and helpful online, and we can look for that kind of connection and value. And I'm going to give you a quick example. So a few weeks ago, I shared a post about a really nasty comment that someone left about an earlier issue of this podcast. It was put on Apple Podcasts under the comments, under reviews. And I kind of screenshot it and started a discussion about it because my point was, hey, this was pretty nasty feedback and they could have taken a better approach. But also, it was useful feedback because I didn't know there was an audio issue with one of the episodes in a specific location. So one of the episodes on YouTube actually had some sound issues. We have since fixed that. But anyway, I posted this up to talk about, the feedback experience. And a woman commented under my post something along the lines of like, well, this is why I don't even read the comments on my stuff anymore, because I don't want to deal with the negativity. Like, I'm just not going to deal with it. And in my head, I was like, boom. She needs to know how to navigate negative feedback, and she needs to know how to identify when some feedback is useful, even if it is negative. And so what I did was I replied to her and I gave her a strategy. All right. So I'm going to share with you part of what I said. I get that, but I have a suggestion. Instead of ignoring commenters, maybe review them. And when you read something nasty and you feel the ick bubbling up, ask yourself, is this comment useful? Can I solve anything? I find that once my brain understands that there is nothing to fix, I can let go of the nasty remarks pretty easily. And on the rare occasion that the icky feeling lingers, I ask myself, why are you bothered by that? And believe it or not, your brain will answer you. When you ask it a question, it will tell you, and it'll pop up. It makes me feel insecure. It makes me sound like I'm inconsiderate. It makes me wonder if I'm smart or not, blah, blah, blah. Once I get that real issue, then I ask myself, but are you? Is that true? Are you really insecure? Are you really inconsiderate? Are you really not smart, or whatever it might be? And I almost always get a no. And then what I do with that no is I go and find the evidence that affirms that no. Of course you're smart. Here's the evidence for that. Of course you're not inconsiderate. Here's the evidence for that. And usually by then I'm in a great place. Okay. That's what I wrote to her. She sent me a message back that was like, you know what? This is such a helpful strategy. Thank you for this answer. I did not expect this kind of response, which was nice. I want to just say that there is a place for affirmation. There is a place for confirmation. But to grow, we need a little support and direction as well. Otherwise, we just become a part of the problem instead of the solution. We're talking to our friends, we're rehashing it over and over, and we're giving it all energy about all of the toxicity that is going on, and we are not actually doing our part to improve. Humaning well means I want to get better, right? Whew. All right, I made it. I didn't call nobody out. I said no names. I'm in a good place. So that's the episode. If you found it useful, please, please, please like, share, subscribe. It means so much for a new podcast. And also just, I've been told that I need to say this more. I teach and talk for a living. So if you enjoy these and you're interested in learning more about me or bringing me to your organization or any of that stuff, you can pop into the show notes and click around. There's tons of links there, or head over to ambercabral.com and start a conversation with how we can potentially work together. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.